let's talk about asynchronous JavaScript. In this section, we're going to revisit what we spoke about in the first part of the course, in our foundations, where we talked about the web APIs, about the idea of callbacks, the event loop, and how we were able to use asynchronous web APIs to have rich applications. And what does async mean? Asynchronous simply means that we don't have it right now. When we build modern websites, we don't have all the data initially, do we? I mean, we have our HTML page, our CSS page, some JavaScript. But as the page is being loaded, we also have to make a request, maybe to a database. Maybe we need to make a request across the web to fetch some third-party API. All of these require asynchronous code because it's information we don't have yet. We need to get it. We're simply saying to JavaScript, hey, can you go find this out for me? And when you're done with it, come back and give me that information. Because JavaScript has no idea what the World Wide Web or Internet is. It's single-threaded. It's a programming language. On the other hand, the web browser, or Node.js, allows us to use async or asynchronous code so we can interact with things outside the world of JavaScript. And that is the solution. Asynchronous functions are functions that we can execute later. And in this section, we're going to finalize our understanding of asynchronous JavaScript and also revisit the problem that we saw in the first part of the course. Remember this piece of code? We had a set timeout that would console log 1 is the loneliest number with a delay of 0 seconds. A set timeout that console logs 2 can be as bad as 1 in 10 milliseconds. A promise that automatically resolves with high. And then we console log that data, which will be high, right over here. And then we have console log 3. So that when we run this, we have this weird output that we saw, right? We get 3 is a crowd as the first item. And that makes sense, right? Because this whole process begins with the JavaScript engine reading our code, saying, oh, all right, this I'm calling a web API. This I'm calling a web API. This, well, I'm not sure what I'm doing here, but this is asynchronous. So we're going to come back to it. And then we run this piece of code first. Remember this diagram? Once our JavaScript engine sees something that is asynchronous or something like timeout that is part of a web API, we send it over to the web API. And then the web API is going to do something for us in the background. When it's done with whatever it is, such as a timeout of 5 seconds, it will add the callback or the function that we need to invoke into the callback queue. And then the event loop is going to check and see if our call stack is empty and our entire JavaScript file has been read once. And then if it's empty, it pops it onto it pushes it onto the call stack. So the event loop simply monitors the call stack and the callback queue. And we've talked about this before. But then we had this problem, right? Where we expect 3 is a crowd to get printed. But the next part gets confusing, right? For some reason, the promise console log gets run first. The program returns undefined. So this entire JavaScript file has been read. And then, only then, do we get this set timeout and then this set timeout log. Now, we're going to explore that and a few other interesting things about JavaScript throughout the next couple of videos. So hang in there. It's going to be another fun one. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.